smelters and factory owners. So we will talk about viewers, iron smelters and the factory owners. But what happened to them under British rule? That is, the industries, how they got affected. So I'll show you a picture here and then it will start the discussion. These are the ships, these are trading ships, and these are the trading ships on the port of Surat. Surat is a port city and this is in Gujarat. So Surat is in Gujarat, and if you take the west coast of India, west coast, and this was one of the most important ports at that time when India was doing trade. So the Dutch, the English, every foreign traders, they would come through this port. But this was all early 17th century, but the importance of this port declined in 18th century. You'll know how. Why? The first thing is, whatever crafts we have and whatever industry we have, that is, we are talking about Indian subcontinent at that time, and what happened under British rule. So we'll focus on two main industries, and these two main industries are textile, that is the textile industry, and the second industry we are going to talk about is iron and steel, loha and ispat. Textile is kapda udyog. Why we are discussing? Because these two industry, even at that time and now also in modern era also, these two industries are all giving boon, or the economy is based on this. The economy, GDP, all is based on the manufacturing, the production the company does. So if I take you to these two, textile or iron and steel, the importance still remains the same. What happened in Britain was the mechanized production. That is, Britain, the industrial revolution took place, Audyogikaran, it started in Britain. So this gave rise to mass production in low price. So this iron and steel company, it went ahead. And if I can tell you that 1850s, the Britain was actually known as the workshop of the world. That is, the iron and steel industry of Britain, it went, or it emancipated so much that it was called as the workshop of whole world, workshop of whole world. That is, everything is done here. Everyone gets content from here, iron and steel from here. So what happened in India? Because British colony was India. India was British colony only. So at that time, East India Company we are talking about, and East India Company was totally given the right to trade. There was no other company. So because the company, it was a company, it was a trading company. So because they want to keep their interest, or their interest, they take control of certain territory, that is occupation of territory, right? So the pattern changed of trade in India, because we were the colony of Britain. So the late 18th century, if I take you, company was doing what in late 18th century? Company was, let me tell you, late 18th century, you can say 1750 and afterwards, you can think about that. So company was actually buying goods from India, and then it was exporting them and selling them in England and Europe. So the company was getting huge profits from the sale of Indian products. If I can tell you that in England is just above Europe, it was the part of European Union, but Brexit is taking place. So East India Company at that time, Britain and Europe, these were the markets of Indian goods. They used to export, take from here and sell it there, right? So what happened? There was other thing also happening. Industrial production was going on in Britain. So the British industrialists, they thought India is such a huge country. It has huge population. And they saw India as the main market. That is, why not to, this MG is for manufactured good. Why not to sell the manufactured good which we produce here to India? So now we see India was flooded with the products from Britain, UK, because we were colony as well. So Indians, these are Vastukars, Kashtkar, that is the craftsmen and industrialist people. What would happen to East India Company? East India Company is taking control because it has all the control of trade. What would happen to these people, Indian people? So I'll show you this picture. This was the time when it was called as the workshop of the world, iron and steel industry in Britain. So as I suggested, I'll start with this Indian textile. First textile industry we are going to take, and then I'll talk about the iron and steel industry. So textile industry, if I take you back to 1750, India was one of the giant in textile production. That is, even before the British actually conquered Bengal, and Bengal was actually the hub of cotton textiles and the textiles in India. Even before British acquired it, or not acquired, actually conquered, already India was the giant, the world largest producer of cotton textiles. We were already supplying a huge bunch of cotton textiles to all over globe. That is, we were highly respected. The cotton textiles were highly regarded. Why? Because we had something special in our quality. Bengal was giving the main percentage. So why we were famous? As I said, the textile we had, the quality was immense, fine. It was very, very fine. And the craftsmanship, the handmade, the kind of work done on the cotton or the cloth were exquisite. Exquisite means ecstatic. And it was not only the world, I'll tell you, even our neighbors. This is Asia, so West Asia, because this is the nearest to India. This is India. This is West Asia. It's Central Asia, and also Western, and then Southeast Asia. Now Southeast Asia, if I can name that Southeast Asia places, it was basically Java, Sumatra, and Penang. So you can see that whichever was closer to India, Asian export was too much. Too much means in a good way. Cotton textile. So Java, Sumatra, and Penang. Let me show you here. This is India. I am talking about the right side of India, which is the Asia. So this is the southeast. Java, Sumatra, and here you see Penang. Okay. So all these are Southeast Asian countries. They were requiring it, and we were supplying it, and a fine quality stuff we were providing it. So if I take you to 16th century, the European company, what were they doing? They were coming to India. They're buying the cloth from the Indian weavers because trade and craftsmanship was ecstatic. And they were selling it with a good profit. So this is proper Patola Nakrai swag. This is a picture of Patola weaving. Patola weaving. This is a mid-19th century picture I'm showing you. 1850 around, you can imagine. So this Patola was especially on the left side, or the Ahmedabad Patan and Suraj part. And this Patola was highly valued in a country called Indonesia. And you will be elated to know that in this local tradition also of Indonesian local culture, this Patola is already there, was inscribed now. So now it is in the culture, Patola weaving. So this is the good work, excellent work, which Indian textiles provide to this world. So this Patan, Ahmedabad, and Surat. These were the hub of this patola weaving. So this picture is also showing you about the plain white, the checks and stripes where the center points or trading centers were there. The shints I'll talk about. Silk is a resham, silk. So this area, and this area, these three areas are very important because they were having ports. At that time, mainly the trading was done through trade, these sea route. And these all places are important because the textiles were going through land routes. And to be very precise, the Bengal was the hub. Till now, you see, Bangladesh is the world leader in textile, this making and selling. Now, how do this European knew about all these? And how does these different names of this textiles came, cotton came? So, it didn't start in India. European, they saw Indian cloth, cotton cloth, not in India. They get to know about Indian textile or cotton first with Arab merchants, Arab Vyapari in Mosul. And Mosul still in Iraq. So it's a place in Iraq, and the merchants, their European traders saw it. This is Iraq and this is a Mosul I'm talking about. And it is quite linked with the European countries. So this was the trading going on. And the merchants, these Mosul merchants were having this Indian cloth. That is, if you take out your ring from your hand and if you pass this cloth, one than, one piece good, it will come out. So it was so fine. So that is how they called it as muslin or muslin, because they found it first in Mosul of Iraq. We call it as malmal. In our country now and previously also, we call it as malmal, right? After that, what happened? How did this different name came up? If you remember, Vasco da Gama, right? Vasco da Gama, he was a Portuguese. He was from Portugal. So he came first, or he landed in India first in Calicut. Basically, Goa is the hub, Portuguese culture. But Vasco da Gama, he was a Portuguese, he came first in Calicut. But Calicut is in Kerala right now. NIT Calicut, if you go to engineering, you'll see. So this Calicut was the first place they came. And the Portuguese basically came for what? They came for spices. Everyone was coming for spices, especially the black pepper. That was called as black gold. The cardamom and everything was added up. So they came for spices. But when they came here, and they got to know about the cotton textile, which was produced in India. So this cotton textile, they loved that so much that along with the spices, when they came, they had a double advantage. Spice was there already. But the cotton cloth, as I said, was something very special to them. They didn't know about that. So when they went back, they took these spices and the cotton textile along with this. And because they came to Calicut, when they went back, so they regarded it as a general name called as calico. So now at that time, all the general name for the cotton textile was called as calico. Okay, it's a default name now. Calico means cotton textile. And it has come from Calicut, which is in Kerala, which is in India. So I'll show you a picture of calico. See, this is the left one is the fine quality. And there is a harder, you can say, threading here on the drill calico. So we have wide width calico, free retardant calico, classic calico, fabric and drill calico. So this is a cotton textile, but muslin started from Mosul and calico came from Calicut. Now I'll show you a picture. There is an order. This is just an order slip. So British people, they send this order book or this order to Bengal. And this Bengal people, basically the agents. And they wanted these cloth. And this happened in 1730. So if I show you this picture, Bahi Khata, account book. So it's clearly written, not very clear here, but the name of what kind of cloth they want, how much they want, what is the rate, and you'll be surprised to know the rate were already decided in London. It was already decided there, Great Britain. And it would take 2 years. That is the order will be given 2 years in advance, because time, send orders, then the cloth will be woven, then it will be shipped again back to India, the Britain. So this will take around 2 years. At that time, it was not just flight going and taking. So once it comes to London, it was being auctioned and then it will be sold. So this is a Bahi Khata. This is just an account book, order book. So from this we know right now that what was happening at that time. What kind of clothes were in demand? What kind of different clothes were there available? So you will be happy to know that in 1730, I am talking about the 18th century, early 18th century, 6 lakh, to be precise, 5,89,000. So just assume that it is 6 lakh, around 6 lakh. 6 lakh than. Than is piece good, one piece good. So 6 lakh piece good were being sought or were being ordered from Britain to India through Bengal agents. So this one piece wood was 20 yards by 1 yard. So 1 yard is 3 feet, and 1 yard is 36 inches, and 1 meter is 3.28 feet. So you can convert feet to meter. So you'll know how this meter conversion is there. So basically it's 20 yards by 1 yard, and this is one piece, and in total 6 lakh pieces were being ordered in 1730. Than we call it. In India we still call it as a than. One piece of cloth. So what you see here is this whole paper is giving us all the idea of that time. Around 100 to 98 to be precise, around 98 varieties of cotton, kapas, and silk, resham. That is suti and resham, cotton and silk cloths were required at that time, or they were ordered at that time. And the India was very famous for the shints. This picture I'll just talk about that. And kosa, bandana, and there were other which were not named, but they were named because of the place from where that cloth was coming. Kasim Bazar, Patna, Calcutta, Odisha, Charpur. This Kasim Bazar and Charpur, this was in Bengal. Okay. Now still you find it in Bengal, and some parts have gone to the Bangladesh. Right? So East Pakistan previously, now it is, and this whole area is all the name I'm talking about. Some part of Bihar, some part of Odisha, and Bengal in total. So this is the basic area of this production. Not very much production, but weaving and then selling, making cloth. Okay. Now this is a Jamdani weaving. So this Jamdani is a very fine muslin. And if you see, they are typically woven on the loom, the grey and white color. And the thread is basically the mixture of cotton and gold thread. It is combined gold and cotton. So you see the picture and you can imagine what kind of Jamdani weaving was there. So this Jamdani weaving was very famous, and the important center was Dhaka in Bengal, and Lucknow in United Provinces, that is today's Uttar Pradesh. So Lucknow is the capital of Uttar Pradesh right now, and this is Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh. So these two places were the important centers of Jamdani weaving. Now let us discuss about this order book. Okay, now in this order book, what do you see here? The British people or British traders, they gave the order to the Bengal or Calcutta people, or the agents basically. So first thing was, let us discuss one by one, that is shints. One was kosa, some of them I am talking about. Kosa, kosa as it is written, but it is khasa or kosa, and bandana. Now, these names have originated from our Hindi words. That is, if you want to sprinkle some water on your brother or your sister morning, or your mother sprinkles some water on your face, you're not waking up, and this is called cheat. And these on the cloth, this cheat or these simple droplets or the imprinting was of flowers and the petals. So this was cheat. This printed cotton cloths called cheat. This cheat is derived from the Hindi word called cheat, that is sprinkling water. And cloth is small, colorful, flowery design it was. And in 1680s, people were crazy about this. So it has so much craze for this printed Indian cotton textiles in England and Europe, because it has special exquisite type of floral designs. The texture was very good and it was quite relatively cheap also. So not only the rich people were interested in it, but also the queen herself, the English queen, she was also wearing cheap Indian fabric. Can you imagine? So let us take bandana now. Bandana is basically the small cloth, and you can wear it on your head and you can wear it on your neck also. These are the printed scarf for the neck or the head. Basically, bandana is now a brightly colored kind of say the cloth which we see today. But this bandana has come from the word bandna, sari bandna, lungi bandna. Shins has come from cheat, Hindi word. Bandna has given rise to bandana. You see this? The name has originated from bandna. And this is a cloth. You can take it and use that as a scarf, neck or head. So these two pictures which I am showing you here. The right one is bandana design. So I am talking to you about early 20th century, this picture. So what you see here, this is odhani type, odhani. So these two tie and dye silk pieces, there are two pieces actually. So they will take a cloth, they will tie some part, and they will put it to dye. When this dyeing is done, some part will get color, some part won't get color. So there will be a pattern, there will be a design will come, and these two cloth will be combined through say gold thread embroidery. So they have used a gold thread embroidery to combine these two different pieces of cloth. Okay. So Rajasthan and Gujarat were the hub of this place. Rajasthan and Gujarat is this place. Rajasthan upper Gujarat. So this was special place for this bandana. Now this is the cheap production I'm talking about. The main thing was it was produced in Masulipatnam, Andhra Pradesh, mid 19th century. Cheat, pani ke cheete cheetna, phekna. And this was exported to Iran and Europe also. So bandana has come from Hindi word which is bandha. See, some other cloths were coming from the place of origin, from where they have come. That is the Qasim Bazar cloth, Patna cloth, Calcutta cloth, Odisha cloth, Charpur cloth. So let me show you the picture again, because you need to keep it inside your mind. This is Bihar, Odisha, Calcutta, Charpur, Qasim Bazar is here with the place I am showing you here. Okay. So the cloth were also renowned from the place also, from where they have come. Indian textile in European market. Now we'll discuss about this in the next discussion. Till then, thank you so much. Take care of yourself.